everybody. We're back again. Three old friends. Don't forget that old, God forbid. Three old friends. Music never ends. This is what, our 28th, something like that, right? 28. Amazing. Simply amazing. I don't know if we'll ever reach the status of our current topic, which is baseball, our tradition of 120 years, but we're getting there, and it's fun to do. Like I mentioned, the topic this time is baseball, which is, of course, very near and dear to my heart. It's been a huge part of my life since we moved, since my family moved to Texas, and I first saw my first game on color TV. It was the Reds, so they've always been my team. Never realized that you had to root for your home state team till the Cowboys came around, and people were like, "Yeah, what do you root for the Reds? Don't you root for the Rangers and the Astros?" I was like, I root for that team that was winning and going to the World Series, which of course people do. But baseball obviously is a big part of my life. It's one of the reasons I became a sports editor or sports writer. Uh, I moved to Ohio because of baseball. I know it's crazy. I was telling these guys, yes, am I a bit obsessive about baseball? Of course. Do I think it's one of the greatest games ever produced? Of course I do. I think it's a beautiful game. I think everything about it is great. Uh, so we decided this was the topic this time, or I kind of pushed it forward. I mean, we all did it. We were going to do the autumny thing, but we figured enough baseball songs were out there. So first, I'll ask you guys, because baseball means different things to different people. What does baseball mean to you, Mike? You can talk about it. I know you're not as obsessive as I am, but talk about your what baseball means to you.
Well, yeah, I don't have a lot of knowledge about baseball. I don't really collect cards and all that stuff, as opposed to you guys who have thousands. Jose sells them. He sets up a thing. I do not. But ever since I was a kid, I'd watch it. I go to a lot of Rangers games. I grew up, spent a lot of my time in Dallas, and so that was a big deal back when they had that old stadium. We'd sit out and bake in the sun, and the one time the Concorde flew right over, so that really dates me in that stadium. But yeah, and then I follow it, and so they're still my team. But really, what has sparked my interest again is my son loves baseball. He plays ever since Little League. So we kind of get into that routine. You get out there, and the first few weeks or so, you freeze your butt off. The last one in Texas, pretty much all after that, you're sweating in the heat. But the whole time, it's just it's great. I love the excitement. I've heard people describe none in this room, but describe baseball as kind of boring, and I don't get that at all. I think it's what little I know of it. It's beautiful, and I really get into watching my boy. I wasn't able to be there tonight, but he's in the fourth game of a series in a tournament. They've won the first three, and so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm gonna see the video of it after this, but yeah, so that's it.
Dave, how about you? I know you love baseball.
Well, baseball is a generational thing that gets passed down from generation to generation. And so for me, it was my dad loved baseball and taught me baseball. So from the earliest ages I can remember, 5, 6, 7 years old, he was out there throwing the ball with me and hitting it off the tee and doing all the things we needed to do to play baseball, to play catch. And that's how I first fell in love with the game of baseball. And I played it, most of my childhood growing up through the years. As far as watching the sports, usually you can remember back to about, I think 7 or 8's probably the earliest memories, and they start to fade over the years as we get older. But I can still remember probably late either 72 or 73 watching the World Series with my dad, and it was the Oakland A's playing. And we had connections to Oakland. My brother and sister were both born in Oakland. And so we liked the Oakland A's and the Raiders at the time, even though we were in Texas at the time. So my first love was the Oakland A's. So kind of going against the Cincinnati Reds there. But, we had the 72, 73, 74, and then the big red machine in Cincinnati took over for a couple of years. And then we had Yankees, Dodgers, and all that at the end of my 13, 14-year-old days or whatever. So that's kind of how I fell in love with baseball. And, it's ebbed and flowed over the years and whatnot. But I always enjoy watching this time of year, getting into postseason, watching the playoffs and World Series. Even if my team's not in it, it's still something that draws my attention.
Right. Yeah, and this is one of the reasons. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I forgot to say something. Can I add one little
Sure.
postscript? I didn't mention my son is now 17 and playing baseball, not only with his high school, but select ball basically every season. And the other thing I mentioned, the Rangers kind of came full circle. He and I sat down and watched, them win the World Series. And that was just such a great experience. So I get it, even if I don't follow it as ardently as some people. I get it, and so
Right.
just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of different levels to it, and one of the reasons we all decided on doing this at this time is because this is the most important time of baseball, is the playoffs, and of course the World Series, which does make instantly makes legends out of players who normally don't make it. And so, the Fall Classic obviously is one of the most important things. And so, yeah, so then in thinking of that, when I first started the playlist, and since I got to choose first, I chose the Song of October by Terry Cashman. And we can talk a little about, he became famous for singing Willie, Mickey, and the Duke, and they call him the bandolier of baseball at one point because he was always writing about baseball. And then of course Dave kind of followed up too with Don't Call the Twinkies, which by the Baseball Project, and I'll let Dave talk about it a little more, but that delves into Minnesota Twins and their postseasons and how they became popular because of their postseasons. And then we do Angels of Fenway, which is a little divergent, but again, it all deals with the Red Sox finally breaking the curse of finally winning it after selling off Babe Ruth and then making a whole thing about that. And I have my own issues with that, but we'll talk about them. But I enjoyed all the Song of October, of course, goes through a litany of past heroes of the Fall Classic. He throws out the Gianfredos, he throws out the Gibson and Gibsons, all kind of the heroes of all these World Series, which becomes part of baseball lore and American lore because it's exciting moments at the biggest times. I love the songs because I love to reminisce. I really, and I'll tell a little secret, or it's not a secret, but I became obsessed with the Baseball Project because I hadn't really heard about it until Dave put the song on. Now I love the song. Obviously, I can identify. I watched the Twins in '87 and '91, and of course even '65. You can watch those on YouTube, which is fascinating. If you ever want to watch, here's a little bad thing. So obsessive with baseball, I will fall asleep watching old YouTube World Series games just to watch some baseball. I know it's terrible, but that's what I do. And then of course, Angels of Fenway. Here's my story about Angels of Fenway. I don't like that. My friend showed it to me one time. My friend Tom Hendrickson, who's a dear friend of mine, and I didn't like it, and I don't like it only because it kind of romanticizes the Red Sox and their plight, and about Red Sox fans all complain, oh, 86, even though they're a big market team, and we'll get into the whole big market, small market team. But it is a beautiful song, and it captures the essence of Boston fans. So, Dave, talk about your selection and talk about these songs.
Well, I thought that I'd heard of the Terry Cashman thing, like you said, the Talking Baseball. That's the only song I think I knew about it, but that was ingrained in me. Willie, Mickey, and the Duke, all of the famous players. This one I didn't know about, and I just say, from a musical standpoint, it was such a cool start to the playlist. I felt like, that I was in the fall, I was in the autumn. They even mentions in the lyrics, right, about that, and the time of year and the colors and the backdrop of it, and it was just the imagery of the game. And then he goes through all the litany of names. Some, I'll tell you, I don't know some of them that were way back in the day, but once you started getting into the 60s and 70s, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that one. In fact, you know, was it Chambliss and Brett that he says or something?
Right.
And so that kind of piqued my interest, and there were some others like that. So no, I thought it was a way cool song and a great melody, and it sets a tone for not only baseball but this time of year for sure. And then I followed up with, you know, Don't Call Them Twinkies, and I didn't know this song beforehand, but in our research and trying to look for baseball songs, I came across this one, and I guess it's some members of REM are in that and doing it, and they take you through the whole history of Minnesota Twins baseball. And again, they're a small market team, but they've won a couple of series. They've been competitive over the years, and so you can imagine when they first won it, you know, in '87, how crazy that was for that time period, and then to win it again a few years later. Different musical style than the first song. It was a little more edgy and upbeat than the first one, so kind of contrasted the first song. And then Mike came in with Angels of Fenway by James Taylor, and I hate to admit it, but I had not heard this song either, and I don't know why, but so when Mike did it, you know, I'm a big James Taylor fan and like that style of music, and so when it came on and I listened to it, I've listened to it several times since we played it. I'm falling in love with it. I like it. I just like how James Taylor weaves the story, tells the tale of the Red Sox history with his grandmother, who was born in, you know, the last time they won the series back in 1918, and all the way to the end when she finally died. I mean, I think it's a great, well constructed song. And again, the first three songs, we'll probably say this over and over again. The whole theme of the thing was baseball, but I think everything flowed really well, and those first three really kicked it off well.
Yeah, I agree, and I can't add a lot to what you were saying about the first song, the Terry Cashman stuff, but it is a really great intro. Again, kind of a more gentle intro, but it's also a kind of a wide lens, you know, looking at across a lot of different teams and players. And we're more specific in a lot of the songs that follow. So in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, that's a great one to start off with. The Don't Call Them Twinkies. I'll say a lot of these songs I'd never heard before. However, I am familiar with the Baseball Project just because of my love of REM, and I had seen that Peter Buck was part of this, I don't know if you call it a super group, kind of ensemble, people from bands like Death Cab for Cutie, the Decemberists, and then Peter Buck, of course, was a guitarist for REM, and not on this record, but I think maybe the next one. I think they've had 4 of these, all songs about baseball. I think starting the next one, and maybe the one after that, Mike Mills, who sang some lead, a little bit of lead on REM songs, but back, I mean, wrote a lot of stuff for them, and I almost ran over him with the car once, but that's another story on accident. So he's on there too, and I put a couple of I'd known of them, and so I used to do this thing, Song of the Day. I don't really do it much anymore, but on Facebook, and I put a couple of their things up. And so this is a great story. Don't Call Them Twinkies. I don't know if everybody knows anything about that. The little bit I read is that basically it's one of the nicknames the Twins got, kind of derogatory, yet for some people also, you know, a loving jab, you know. But I could totally get it if some people would not like, don't call the Twins the Twinkies. So anyway, I like that one. And Angels of Fenway, I totally get what you're saying, Jose. I kind of, I don't know, don't necessarily completely agree. And also I think I think that the whole thing it's been made into something that it was a slump, an 85-year slump, but nonetheless, but people, people like to mythologize stuff. And, there's a lot of that in sports and other things. So I get why that is kind of annoying. I never really paid much attention to it, but just the thing that this is the lifespan of his grandmother. She was born the year they last won, and then she died as they won in the series in 2004. And I think it's pretty exciting. It kind of captures, I guess as much as you could in a song. Kind of coming up to the, oh my God, 2004, we couldn't believe it happened. So that's where I went with that. I didn't know the song either. I like a lot of his stuff too. I thought I'd listen about everything, but I didn't know this one until I did some research, like a lot of these other songs we're going to talk about. Oh, I just want to. There's a similar song coming up. A couple that talk about another team with a long drought, and so we'll get to those.
We will get to those. My nitpicks on on the songs of October is and this is just the thing for all you baseball. He mentions Bobby Robertson. There's no Bobby Robertson that ever made it big in the thing. I think they're saying Bobby Richardson, which was the MVP of the only player to lose, be on a losing team to win the MVP in 1960, and the only Bobby Robertson was a first baseman for the Pirates, and he didn't do anything really in the World Series. So anyway, nitpick for all you baseball purists and Terry Cashman. I tried to look up to see if that was a mistake. Never. Could have said Bobby Thompson, which behind me you can see the shot heard around the world. Or it's that Giants win the pennant 51. So maybe he was trying to say that. And then Angels. I will say that I listened to every baseball project song after I heard this one. Love the song about Harvey Haddix and the perfect games. They have some great songs. I admit those guys know their baseball and what they sing about. So if you're a baseball fan, I would check out that because there's some fun songs on there. You could have picked any number of songs that really would have worked on this. Those guys really know. I like the Harvey Haddix song because A, he's from Ohio. B, he did pitch a perfect game, which actually went 12 innings and didn't get the win. But they mentioned all the people who pitched perfect games, which is kind of interesting. So, and there hasn't been that many, 15, maybe 20. And then Angels of Fenway again. My apologies. It's a beautiful song. But to say that you Red Sox fans, we were patient. No, you guys weren't. You guys bitched and moaned like anybody else throughout the years. And then to say, well, the Yankees were outbidding us 2-1. Well, how do you think you won in 2004? By spending a boatload of money to get that team to win. So yeah, again, I'm nitpicking. I'm a small market guy. As far as the Red Sox, they have their tradition, but if you would have told me like they think they sound like they've been selling out their whole life, and of course, if you go from 67 to 75, you see a lot of empty seats in there in the 40s and 50s between Ted Williams and Carl Yastrzemski. No one was talking about the Red Sox per se, but they like Mike said, they've mythologized it. It's become a thing. Obviously, there's a heck of a lot of Red Sox fans and made a lot of Red Sox fans. So yeah, I give it up to them. And that leads us into, like Mike said, the Cubs. There's another team that has been, and they finally won it in 2016. So again, by doing what? Spending a lot of money to win that in 2016. Now, that's not to say that you should ever take away from the Cubs, the lovable losers. If you're a baseball fan, you lived through the Harry Carey years. He kind of made the Cubs in the 80s and the 90s by being on cable, by being on WGN. Heck, I used to race home from school just to watch the Cubs because you knew they were going to be on. And of course, Harry Carey. A little side note, I rode once in an elevator with Harry Carey. He's the same kind of person he is on this thing as he's off. Very nice guy. No one checked his ID, but they seemed to check mine going up the elevator. So, and then and that was All the Way by Pearl Jam. And it's a nice, great song about the Cubs and their plight. And maybe one day they'll go all the way. Obviously, it was before 2016 when they did go all the way and win it finally. So again, it's another team that hasn't won in a lot of years since 1948, the Indians or the Guardians now. And then of course we go right into some characters. Nolan Ryan. I'd never heard the song. Jerry Jeff Walker. I love that song. I love Nolan Ryan. I think he's one of the greatest. People will debate whether he's, how great he really is, but as a Texan, as a guy who stood for endurance and as a model of who you want to model somebody after, he's one of the best. Actually, at the show, I did a card show, and some guy was buying some of my Nolan Ryan cards. I said, "Hey, have you heard that song Nolan Ryan by Jerry Jeff Walker?" And he's like, "No, I haven't heard that." I said, "You need to check it out." So see, you pass that stuff along. And then finally the song, we'll get into it, the Negro Leagues, and I like to talk extensively about this. What's it called? Saga of Dandy, the Devil, and Day by who's that? Ultramagnetic MC. Again, I had never heard the song, but I think it's fantastic. I'm a firm believer that baseball really didn't start till 1947 until they integrated, because it's kind of silly that you kept out half half the talent and claim that you're the World Series champs, but you're leaving out a whole segment of the population. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds. That's not to disparage the Joe DiMaggios, the Babe Ruths, the Ty Cobbs of the world. They did what they did in their era because that's how the way it was. But 1947 is really when I think when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, is when baseball really started gained its full steam and became America's pastime, because now you have everybody involved instead of just white players only. But musically, all the way, acoustically, great. Jerry Jeff Walker, he never disappoints, obviously, and his lyrics are fantastic. And it was obviously written before he even retired, because he only mentioned 6 no-hitters and him winning 300, gonna win 300. He obviously did both, and he pitched another one. In fact, I think I saw one of the no-hitters at Dave's house, his 7th one. So I remember seeing his 5th no-hitter thrown. I can distinctly remember it in 1981. So and then I'll come back to the Negro Leagues, but Dave, talk about Jerry Jeff Walker.
So this is one where we're always glad, like when we come up with a song that the others don't really know, and they go, "Oh, I really like that." And this was one that I did know about and have known for years. And so, being a big Jerry Jeff Walker fan, I put him on a lot of the other playlists, wherever. So when we were going to do this playlist, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna have that Nolan Ryan song queued up and ready to go." Yeah, it's great because it compiles his story from being a skinny kid in Alvin, Texas, and he might be the fastest, and he throws a mean fastball and all that kind of stuff. And but you forget that he won a World Series back when he first started as a rookie. Was he a rookie? I guess with
I think it was his second year, but yeah, the Amazing Man.
Second year.
Yeah,
I mean, but when you're trying to break in with who is it, Kuzman and Seaver and these other players, he was a rotation guy, but he wasn't the main guy. But he got a World Series ring, and then again started on all the records that he set is just unbelievable. So, I was going to say something else about it. So with Nolan Ryan, I didn't go to a lot of pro games growing up, even through high school and college. I probably went to maybe a handful of them. We lived in San Antonio, so it was a trek to go to Houston or to Dallas to see a Major League Baseball game. But I do remember going to the Astrodome a few times, and on one such occasion, I got to see Nolan Ryan play the New York Mets, and I think it was through his 4,000th strikeout. And I could have swore that Jose was at that game, because Jose is my best baseball buddy, but he said, "Nope, I wasn't there. It must have been one of my other friends or whatever that I went with." But did get to see him throw that, struck out Danny Heap at the time. And so
a San Antonio kid, no less.
Poor Danny Heap, I got to show his card there. He was one of the victims of Nolan Ryan's fastball. But no, again, great song. I like it. Going back to the all the way though, I never heard the Pearl Jam song either. The Lovable Cubs and they got to wait for their turn. And it's just cool how musicians can be into sports like they are and and be able to convey that emotion. You know, hey, I'm a musician, but I'm a sports fan too. I'm a Cubs fan, and someday they'll go all the way. And again, they did. Maybe they need to write songs like that so that they will eventually go all the way. And then Mike followed up the Nolan Ryan with the Saga of the Dandy, the Devil and Day, and I never heard that either. But like Jose said, just the history of the Negro Leagues and all the things that go with that. We're finally seeing that where they're recognizing them in the record books. They're recognizing their statistics. They're starting to do a lot more of that. And I agree with Jose about breaking the color barrier, and that's when it really started. But and we'll probably get into the next song, but that last song was a good transition back to old timey kind of baseball songs, right? Not the new stuff. And then so Mike put that on, and then Jose, as you'll see, followed it up with another old timey one. So again, I thought it was all three were great. I liked them.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the list here, and many of these songs I did not know before this. I'll start with mine and then just kind of go back. The Ultramagnetic MCs, no idea. I just saw. I just did a lot of research on songs about baseball, and as soon as I saw this, I'm like, oh, you've got to have something about the Negro Leagues, and so yeah, it's hip hop, and it's I'm not historically one who listens to a lot of hip hop, but as time has gone by, there's stuff I've really gotten to like. Wish I could go back in time and explore it more when it was going on full swing, like that stuff was. But I love the song. I love the arrangement. But just there, and it's kind of interesting how they. Yeah, I guess you could call it cheesy, but they throw a lot of like batter up, and then they throw it to the next guy who does his little rap, and then I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, and I guess going backwards, I was going to say what you said. It goes into Jackie Robinson, I think next, which which of course that was his background, but we'll get to that. The All the Way, Eddie Vedder. I think that's a great song. I was like, what is this? Like an Irish drinking song sound to it? What is this? And then that's not described as like kind of like a sea shanty. I don't know, but it's like I can see it like everybody gathered around singing it together, and they do on this live recording. He's from Illinois, I think, and so he's got apparently a lifelong love of the Cubs. And so this one focuses a lot more on the positive side of being a Cubs fan, and I kind of contrast that with my song a little bit later. But it's a great song. It's fun. And then Nolan Ryan, of course, growing up in Texas, everybody knew about Nolan Ryan, right? I was pretty young, but I think I'm pretty sure I saw him play with the Rangers, and of course he's now part owner, or has been for quite a while, of the Round Rock Express, which is a minor league team a few miles from here. So we get over there every now and again. They have a big statue of him and whatever. Anyway, so yeah, and that's just an exciting story. Need more. Love those Texas boys making us proud.
Nolan Ryan, and Dave mentioned that before. When he beat up Robin Ventura, he became Texas. became part of Texas lore, baseball lore, and embodied what all Texans believe. We're bigger, badder, and better than anybody else. So bring it on. Bring it on. And of course, Nolan Ryan is the embodiment of that. I mean, he's a good old country boy, works on his ranch, but comes out and can throw 100 miles an hour and takes no guff. And man, it's great. And from what I've heard in interviews that I've seen with him, he's down to earth. He's one of those kind of guys. And so now I think that, and I think the song is really great as well. And I like how it touches upon all his highlights and stuff.
And every time his career seemed to be towards the end, he just kept going and going. Right. I think that longevity. I mean, how was he? 44 or
45,
45 when he ended.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to see. We will never see another Nolan Ryan
No,
in our
definitely
lifetime.
not.
No, I mean
No.
the bar has been set, and
Right. We can talk more about the Cubs when we get to the other song, but then I want to talk about the saga of Dandy, the Devil, and Dave. And I looked this up. I did my research, and I actually have Dandy is Ray Dandridge. I have his autograph. I didn't know I had his autograph, but I have his autograph. I got it at a show in White Plains back in the early '90s. Didn't really know who he was back then. Now I do. You do your homework, and so I'm glad that they brought up his name in this. The Devil, I looked that up. Willie Wells was another player. He was another Negro League player who's really famous. And then Dave is Leon Dave, who's a famous pitcher and almost as much as famous as Satchel Paige was. Obviously, they mentioned Satchel Paige in the song, and they mentioned a lot of the new cool Papa Bell, which of course the whole story about how fast cool Papa Bell. They allude to it where the story always goes, cool Papa Bell is so fast that he could flip the light switch and be in bed before the lights went out. That was just one of those little stories about cool Papa Bell. So, and I love it, and I'm glad Mike brought this song to us because it really is a huge part of baseball history. And so, of course, that led me to did you see Jackie Robinson hit by Count Basie? And I think Jackie Robinson is one of the 5 most important people in baseball, if not the United States, because if not for Jackie Robinson, the move towards segregation might have been a little slower. But because of Jackie Robinson and because of his courage, yes, I'm gonna throw hyperbole about Jackie Robinson. I just think he's one of the most important people in history. It is amazing that what he had to endure. We've seen it all. If you've seen the movie 42, it kind of captures some of that. I read 3 or 4 books on Jackie Robinson. I read his autobiography. I just think he's one of the most important people. So we went from that and Count Basie in the song. We can talk about the song is really beautiful. And of course, Dave went with the standard Center Field by John Fogerty. You ever been to a baseball game? You're going to hear that song. It's just a part of it. I will say when it first came out, we all love it. Now I hear 2,000 million times because I've covered at least 1,000 baseball games. I've been to over 200 professional games, been to minor league games. You hear that song, you're just gonna hear it. But there's a reason you hear it because it's fantastic and it's a great song, and it alludes to all the big center fielders of the world and stuff like that. And then of course, A Dying Cubs Fan, Last Wish by Steve Goodman. We talked a little about it. And this is a little more tongue in cheek, and he makes fun of it, which I think is fantastic. I think it's a great song. I love how he kind of pokes fun at the thing. I even love how he pokes fun at Keith Moreland, which is pretty hilarious if you know what he's really talking about there. But it's one of those things where, like all fans, we live and die with our teams, and when you do that, you have to poke fun sometimes at yourself, or you really can't enjoy this game because there's so many ups and downs to baseball. And so many ups and downs of being a fan of a baseball team. And he really captures the essence, especially with the Cubs, because I always used to joke that they're lovable losers, but who wants to be a loser and who wants to be loved to be a loser? No one really wants that, but they became that. And it captured the imagination of the baseball, and they got it for what it's worth until, of course, they won in 2016. Now they're just another baseball, another big market team. But all 3 songs are really fantastic. So, Dave, take it away.
So, the Jackie Robinson thing, let me take it from a little bit different angle. From what I know and everything is yes, he was instrumental in what he did. But had he not been such a great ball player, it might not have happened the way it happened. And the song here talks to that. Did you see Jackie Robinson hit that ball? It went zooming across the field wall. Yes, boy, yes. Jackie hit that ball. And when he swung his bat, the crowd went wild. Talks about, he said, Satchel Paige is mellow. So is Campanella. Newcomb and Doby too. But it's a natural fact when Jackie comes to bat, the other team is through. And he talks about stealing home and everything. So his greatness was in the fact that he was a great ball player. Had it been just an average player trying to break that color barrier, it may not have happened, or it may have taken much longer to do. And then all the things he had to endure and go through. I'm with you, Jose. Makes him a legend, really. But again, this song is great because it does get to the heart of who he was, and like, hey, did you see him play? Man, he's did all these amazing things. And then these next couple songs, I mean, they weren't necessarily flowing in terms of the style of the music, but it doesn't matter because as soon as you hear that beginning of Center Field, you know exactly what song that is. It's John Fogerty, and it puts you in that baseball mood anytime you hear it. I'm sure, Mike, you probably, with your son playing, they even probably play that for walk-up music for the kids sometimes. Maybe not. Maybe they're doing different things. But I know I'm an umpire in high school baseball, and I hear that song frequently when I'm doing games in between innings. People will have that song playing, so I'm real familiar with it. Nothing new there. The Steve Goodman song, Dying Cubs fan. I hadn't heard it, but I do know Steve Goodman. I've actually put him on some playlists in the past. He goes along with some of the Jerry Jeff Walker, and then some of the storytelling and that kind of thing of back in that day. He's done. Jerry Jeff Walker did some of his songs. Steve Goodman's covered other songs. Steve Goodman is known for writing probably his biggest hit was "The City of New Orleans" that Arlo Guthrie did, and that was probably his biggest hit song that he had. But I just like his folk style of telling stories, and he was, in fact, a diehard Cubs fan. He also wrote the song "Go Cubs Go," their other song "Cheer" that they did, and then regrettably he passed away of leukemia. I think at the age of like 36 or 37 years old. But he did get to see the Cubs win the World Series before he died. He died the next year, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, over to you, Mike.
Yeah, I'll come back to that one. I have a couple of things about that, but the Jackie Robinson song, just talking about the song itself, it's kind of that. It was Count Basie Orchestra, who on their own is kind of big band and other jazz stuff. They have just a solid history, and they backed up Sinatra and some of his famous recordings, particularly live ones. And it's fun. It's like that kind of. I put on a Louis Jordan song. I don't know if you guys remember, quite a long time ago, and maybe the first one we did. And it's that kind of music and storytelling, and so that's a lot of fun. That's why I actually had looked at that by. I didn't realize Count Basie did it. I looked at that song out by somebody else, and then when Jose came along first and put it on with this, I'm oh, this is so much better. So yeah, you know your stuff. But Jackie Robinson, what can I say that you guys haven't said? He came from where he came from. He bridged the gap is not an understatement. I mean, well, whatever. It just barely touches on the impact he had on baseball, facing such racism. If you've seen the movie 42, there's a lot of examples of that. And just going back to my son for a minute, I have a special place for that player because of my son too, because he saw that movie when he was just brand new in Little League. Hadn't been playing maybe a couple of seasons, and he loved that movie. And so whenever he could, he would ask if he could have that number on his jersey. And so he did a lot. And I don't know, he doesn't now. He's 11. He's number 11. But we saw that movie together, and it means a lot to me. Centerfield, I bought the album with Centerfield by John Fogerty, and I had been a huge Creedence fan, but then that was quiet. I think he may have put one solo album before this, maybe two, but I think they were really under the radar. And this thing just like hit hard, it was like everywhere, and has been since. Yes, Dave, at Little League games, I have heard that song many, many times. And I will be honest, I was kind of, I had this on my list and I'm like, man, I am so tired of that song. But the fact is, I'm tired of it, but I'm not tired of it because it is a great song. And, you know, if you step back and go, you know, when you hear a song so many times, you kind of maybe block it out a little bit. But if you listen to it again, just listen to it. It's a really good song. It does. I swear this album and onwards, he still sounds like Creedence. So that tells you a lot about his influence on that band, or Dictatorship, however you want to look at it. Yeah, it's a great song. I remember the video to this day from that. And then Dying Cubs fans, last request. I will. He actually, a friend of mine, Rod, is one of our followers or subscribers. I think is. I know he looks at these videos. So he's. I think he grew up in Texas. He went to Berkner High School in Richardson, but he lived in Chicago for a while, and he's just like everything Cubs. Um, Probably like along the lines of you and the Reds, Jose. And so I hope this doesn't cause offense. I hope, Rod, if you're watching this, it's intended in good humor, and it is. It's a song of humor. I mean, it's like when you're going through something like it. Was this like 100 years? I don't remember how many years they were. I read it somewhere. How their dry period.
Well, they
Before
won in 1908, and they made the World Series in 1945. But yeah, they were much longer than the Red Sox were.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you know, you gotta have some humor. And I like it, you know, the things in there he says like you know, baseball, the Cubs made sent me on my errant ways. I forget exactly how he put it. It's like they sent me down to a life of trouble, you know. I started out skipping school to go see him. And then the next thing you know, I was drinking and then dope. And then stooping to such sports as baseball, hockey, lacrosse, things like that. And so, you know, that was funny. And then also, oh, and he's like, but what do you expect when you raise a kid's hope so high and then you crush them again, or year after year after year after year? And he goes on.
I love that. I love that part. It was
Yeah, it's
hilarious.
great. It's what baseball fans deal with.
Yeah, and then the other thing, and then that's, yeah, he's kind of making digs at the what's it, the uh dropped pop fly or whatever, and the
Keith Moreland.
yeah, I knew those are you referring to. And then the talking about the conditions like the wind off the lake, you know, that prevailing 35 or whatever it is mile an hour wind. Yeah, so it's funny. And I will say this Cubs fan, and the song is alive to his death. He's a Cubs fan, even though apparently he doesn't live to see them win. But anyway, so that's why I put that on. And Steve Goodman, yeah, you're right. One other thing you mentioned, was it Go Cubs Go? The I don't remember where I saw this, but apparently not everybody affiliated with the Cubs was happy with this song. And so he did the other one in part to appease some of the not bad blood, but whatever, the reaction by some people to this. So by doing Go Cubs Go. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's, yeah.
I will say, if you ever get a chance to go to Wrigley Field, I think I've been about 10 times. I've even seen Fish at Wrigley Field, and it's great to go to Wrigley Field and see a game. It is a cathedral to baseball, like Fenway Park. I've never been to Fenway Park, but I've been to Wrigley Field quite a few times. When I went to go see Fish there, I went an hour and a half early just to sit in Wrigley Field because there's so much history there. It was built in 1912. It is a beautiful, immaculate place. It's where Ruth called his shot in 1932. It has so much history there. So anytime you can go to Wrigley, it is baseball at its essence. And so yeah, and the song itself. Well, before I get to that, I will say we all should mention that yes, Jackie Robinson's number was retired by Baseball 42, and the Rookie of the Year award is given to Jackie. And I love the point that Dave made that because he was such a great player, that it added to his status hey, you weren't just a trailblazer, but you were a great player as well, and well respected for that. So and brought a whole new essence to baseball as far as base stealing and stuff like that. So, but getting back to the Cubs and this fun-loving song about the Cubs, I followed it up with America's Favorite Pastime by Todd Snyder. I know it's kind of a little controversial, and we'll talk about it. And it's a fun song. And then Bill Lee, another character of baseball, which he was nicknamed the Spaceman. I'll let Dave talk a little bit about that. There's some things that he did that were always crazy. And then to round out the third was Joe DiMaggio, done it again, which he wasn't a character as like them. But go ahead.
Night Game was next, right?
Oh, Night Game. My bad. I didn't put it on my list. Night Game. So we'll talk about Night Game as well. I apologize. And Night Game is Paul Simon. It's not his greatest song about baseball. Let's face it, I can't overshadow Mrs. Robinson, but it does capture. I don't know why he would capture baseball the way he did, but we can talk about the song itself and what he talks about in the song. But I love America's Favorite Pastime by Todd Snyder. It's about Doc Ellis supposedly pitching his no-hitter on LSD, which if you want to believe that story, you can. There's varying viewpoints on whether that's actually true or not. Regardless, Doc Ellis was one of the characters of baseball in the 70s, as was Bill Lee. I mean, those guys go hand in hand. Bill Lee sung by Warren Zevon, which is, I'll let y'all talk about that, and then Night Game. So Dave?
Yeah, I had heard about the Doc Ellis thing, and sometimes that's why you have things called folklore, like whether it was really true or not, and over the years or whatever. I didn't know somebody would take that story and write a song about it, but it's actually a pretty cool song. I liked the lyrics, how he talks about he must have been pretty high and tripping and everything else, and I can't imagine how he could have succeeded in throwing a no-hitter. But yeah, he was definitely a character. You mentioned Bill Lee is another character. Another sort of kind of flamboyant character that we just lost here a few weeks ago was Louis Tiant as well. He was a little eccentric and different, and the way he pitched and everything else. And so yeah, those back in the late 60s and 70s, there were some characters for sure. The Bill Lee song, I just stumbled across it. Mike's the Warren Zevon aficionado. He's the one who puts on the Warren Zevon for us. So I felt good about being able to get a song on by Warren Zevon, but I didn't do a lot of research about it other than I guess apparently there was some connection there, and Bill Lee had said something to Warren Zevon, and he said, like, well, I'll write a song about you or something along that. I can expound about that, but it's a short song, but it's actually a pretty cool song. And so again, it wasn't one I was familiar with beforehand, but he says, where he says, when I'm standing in the middle of the diamond all alone, I always play to win when it comes to skin and bones. And sometimes I say things I shouldn't like, and sometimes I say things I shouldn't like. And then they have the ending of the song kind of repeats that. But I think it's way cool. I did pull out. I know he played for the Boston Red Sox, right?
And yeah.
And then, well, yeah. So I pulled out some of my cards, and I did find, I don't know where this one came from, but this is Bill Lee, and his nickname is the Spaceman.
All right.
So he was spacey, he was crazy, he just had a lot of fun. I think was he one of the first people that like would do the stuff like in the bullpen, where you'd set people's gloves on fire and play pranks and do all kinds of stuff like that too. And then the final song was the last song of the three was Night Game. And I wasn't familiar with this one, even though I've owned that album, Paul Simon. So I should have known it, but my brain cells have forgotten it over the years. And so when Mike put it on, it made me remember. that. And like the fact that, you know, Mike had did the Paul Simon, he did the James Taylor, he did the Stephen Goodman, and all of those are really in my wheelhouse. Love that type of song, like love that type singer-songwriter kind of vibe. So when he put that on, and again, wasn't either familiar with it or hadn't remembered it. I really enjoyed that song as well. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, no, I hated them all. No, I liked all of them. We'll start with the Todd Snyder song, America's Favorite Pastime. I had no idea that story. I hadn't heard, you know, folklore or whatever it is. I personally, I find it hard to believe that somebody could do that, or would have the guts to even try to do that. It just sounds crazy. And to pitch, you know, no hitter.
Well, they said he didn't know he was pitching that day.
Oh yeah. No, that's
So
true.
he was just gonna
That's true.
go sit in the bullpen and just wig out.
Yeah.
It
Why do
sounds
you
like
skip at a baseball game?
That just does not sound like a pleasant experience any way that goes. But yeah, I'm not gonna worry about that. Anyway, but yeah, it's a fun song, and you've kind of gone into it all. I mean, the imagery of the field turned into the icing on a cake, and then as the game goes on, that icing is starting to bleed and smear and all that stuff. It was funny, and I don't know if we'll ever know that really happened or not, but I do. I've been meaning to check out Todd Snyder. I've heard that name for years, and just one that I've never gotten around to. His voice reminded me a little bit of Lyle Lovett in a couple of places, but you know, I haven't looked up since we've done this. I haven't looked up anything else by him. I've just heard his name a lot. And then let's see, I went to the Bill Lee. Yeah, so I did know. Yeah, I like Warren Zevon, and I had heard this song. It was on my list too. But I'm glad you put it on. And it is short, but it kind of is to the point. It's like, you know, it's like you talk, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you say something or toe the line or don't, you're gonna get screwed either way. But then yeah, sometimes I say things I shouldn't. And I looked it up on let's see where it is. I'll try to do this quickly. He'd he took on, like, as a public figure, he back in what years were they? We're talking the late 70s, early 80s.
Well, early 70s to the
Oh yeah. Spoke in favor of Maoist China, population control, Greenpeace, school busing in Boston, and oh, okay.
There you go. Say it. Sprinkling marijuana on
Oh, wait, yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second. But okay, he said when it says here, when asked about his views on mandatory drug testing, Lee quipped, "I've tried just about all of them, but I wouldn't want to make it mandatory," which I thought was kind of cute. So I'm reading this biography of. It's the first time I've done research in a book for these, and I'll keep this very brief. But this biography of Warren Zevon, "I'll Sleep When I'm Dead," very apt title. Has a few parts in there. About that album that came off of is called Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School, which I think is a kind of creates a funny image. But let's see. So Warren Zevon was a very seriously drug addicted alcoholic person, and he fought it for many years and finally was off about almost 2 decades before his death. But one of his in and out time periods, he let's see, this is his manager at the time said he started drinking again when Bill Lee, the Boston Red Sox pitcher, was going to come over. When Bill Lee was interviewed, he'd quote Zevon's lyrics and talk about putting dope on his pancakes as a pre-game ritual. But Warren wanted to meet him, so he called him. He ended up spending 2 or 3 days over here at the house, basically wasted the whole time. So that was, and after that, yes, then it's like, I'll write a song about you. He had, like, Zevon would pick certain people he likes and would like latch on, like Thomas McGuane, the writer, and Hunter Thompson was a particular favorite, and that kind of makes sense. So anyway, yeah, I love that song. And the Night Game, we're getting down to like the last few songs, and I was kind of running out of baseball songs. I wanted to put that one on at the end. I thought it was kind of a good kind of wrap up thing, but I didn't really have anything else, at least at that point, I could think of that I really thought fit. And this doesn't really fit. It doesn't fit at all with it. The overall theme, yes, but these two bad boys before him, or whatever you call them. But it's an interesting song. And it's kind of, I don't really know, it's kind of a little piece of poetry about I don't know, literally the death of a pitcher during the last game of the season as winter's creeping in, and all these things. And it's just an interesting, the imagery is interesting, and I like the arrangement. Maybe somebody else here knows if there's that's based on anything, or what.
I
But
thought it was more figurative than literal.
yeah,
The guy had
Yeah.
run out of steam and he was dead. That's kind of he's dead, he's done. So
yeah.
throw that out there. But
But yeah,
yeah. Well, I think the song works in the sense that we have this song about Doc Ellis and then Bill Lee, and then let's bring it back into a little more somberness, the real game of baseball. Which, of course, if you approach it that way, there's obviously 1,000 ways to approach baseball, and believe me, there were times when I hated when people made fun of baseball and would do like the movie Major Leagues, which everyone loves. I don't like that movie because I always thought, you're making fun of something that I love, even though I understand that that's the whole point, make fun of it. But when you kind of denigrate some of it, I was always like, no, that's so stupid, that's so silly, But you have to be in that mindset to do that because there were characters like Bill Lee and Doc Ellis who were like that and were part of this game. But Paul Simon kind of puts that all in perspective that there's also a somber approach to baseball. There's a reverence towards that game that I obviously have had in my lifetime. I don't take it as serious as I once did, and because of you grow up and finances and everything else, but there's a certain somberness to that really goes well as a part of these. You have the yin and the yang, so to speak. You have the Doc Ellises, you have the Billies, but you also have Paul Simon singing about, even if it was literal a guy dying, for the sport, and how the sport does that to people is a whole part of this lore. So yeah, Bill Lee, the spaceman. There's a reason why that was an infamous him sprinkling. That was part of a Sports Illustrated article, and of course, that caused a lot of stir because all of a sudden this guy's saying that he's doing drugs, and they say it's one of the reasons he got traded to Montreal from Boston because he was popular in Boston. It's just one of those things, and he always claims that they would have won the '75 World Series if he would have pitched in Game 6 instead of Game 7. And he used to throw that eephus pitch, so just an interesting character. But again, I guess, and then of course we kind of get the last three here. It's like Mike said, there's a lot of songs, but of course there ain't a lot of songs about baseball. And I'll mention this too, and we could maybe talk about it at the end. There's not many other songs about different kinds of sports, but baseball seems to have quite a bit of them. More so than, I don't think I can name any song about football or any song about basketball. I know they're out there, obviously, but man, I can't tell you 3 songs about basketball, but we can squeeze 15 songs out about baseball, and the baseball project can make three albums about baseball. So take that for one source. But we go with Joe DiMaggio, Done It Again. And I did my little research because I did it. It's by Billy Bragg and Wilco. And this was actually a song that was done in 1949, but never really completed until these guys took it on upon themselves. And it kind of touches upon Joe DiMaggio and his 56 game hitting streak, which most people believe that record will never be broken. I agree. It's just so hard to do, especially nowadays with relief pitching and stuff. And of course, Joe DiMaggio, love him or hate him, he definitely wasn't one of those characters like these guys. He was stoic. He was just a loved figure for the Yankees. He obviously married Marilyn Monroe. We don't have to talk about that whole issue. I've read a couple of books about Joe DiMaggio, so you take him for what he's worth. But he was a fantastic player, and of course, the 56 game hitting streak is just astounding when you think about it. I mean, the next closest is Pete Rose, RIP, and he got up to 44 games, and that's still 12 games away from 56 game hitting streak. So, and then we had the greatest, Kenny Rogers, which I think we all had on our radar. It's a fun little song, and I'm sure Dave can relate to this, and you, Mike. When we're all kids and you're by yourself and you're batting a ball and you're throwing it up in the air and you're hitting the ball, and you just do that as a kid just to play around. And this kid has his delusions of grandeur, being the greatest and being a great ball player. And then the final, we wrap it up with Third Base Dodger Stadium by Ry Cooder, which I'd never heard the song. I think it's a great song. We can talk about as Dodgers. There's some other Dodger songs out there as well that we can talk about, or that I saw that were out there. But I thought a real poignant song, and especially from Ry Cooder and what it entails. But Dave, talk about the selections.
So right off the bat, you mentioned Joe DiMaggio and the whole thing with him. He was a larger than life character. He was Mr. Coffee. I mean, he was everything,
Right.
and commercial success too. He had the 56 game hitting streak. I kind of think that. So this song was by Billy Braggs and Wilco, and I hadn't heard it either, but it has that bluegrass fiddle, country kind of thing that Jose is in his wheelhouse and likes. I think Jose, you have a 28 playlist consecutive string going of putting some type of jam band bluegrass or some kind of thing on every playlist. So good on you on that. You've got a few more to go to get to 56. But you're well on your way. But I liked it because it was we're towards the end of the playlist, and we didn't talk about this. We actually had a little fight over, not fight, strong fight, but he wanted to put on the greatest, and that was my last song that I was going to put on. Mike probably had it on his list too, so we have to do the bat thing, I guess, to figure out who's gonna put it on. And I won. I was able to put on the Kenny Rogers song just because of the sentiment of the song. Like I said at the very beginning, with me going out and playing ball with my dad, and then when my dad wasn't home, when he was working or he was doing whatever he did, I would be out there with my ball and bat and doing the same thing. I'm throwing it up. I'm going to hit it. I'm going to throw it up. And so the coolness of that song is, that I am the greatest. And here it is. He swings. He misses. Does it again. He's not deterred. The little boy, he fixes his hat. I'll do it again. Misses again. Third time, game's on the line. It's all right. He's gonna make the big hit, right? We all done that in our backyard, and he throws it up and he swings, he misses, and then that's strike three. And his mama calls, and it's time to go home, and he's got such positivity that he says, I am the greatest, and even I didn't know that I could pitch that good. So even though he didn't hit, he could become a great pitcher. Just love the song, love the sentiment of it. And then Mike put on Third Base Dodger Stadium, and I hadn't heard it either, but as I was researching, I came across Ry Cooder, and he has a whole album out about baseball and about Chavez Ravine. And so I think the story of this is actually about how he was probably his home, his family had a house that was in that area and was displaced by them building Dodger Stadium, because he says, I could still sit there from, my house was basically where third base is now in Dodger Stadium, and I could see Grandma over there at second base, on the porch on the rocking chair. And so it's kind of sad that way, but there's a long history about all of that. Some good, not so good about when they built that stadium, but look at all the positive that's happened since then with the Dodgers and them coming from Brooklyn to LA, and now as we speak right now, I don't know the score, but it was 3-2 against the Mets. So if they win tonight, they go into the World Series to play the New York Yankees, of which, again, that's back in the 78 time frame when I was 13 years old and watched Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, hit 3 home runs in the game and win it for the Yankees. So brings back a lot of memories. Again, liked all 3 of the songs. Really, the whole playlist was great, guys. I'm glad we did it because we needed one. I mean, this is one I'm going to play this one a lot, especially during baseball season, especially during we get to this time of year. I'm going to throw this one on for sure. Mike, what'd you think?
Yeah, overall, I liked it, and I got some education out of this. Learned some things I didn't know, which actually, not just the nuts and bolts and the great deeds of many of these players and the history, but the quirks, and a lot of that stuff too. It's really entertaining. And so I appreciate doing that. As far as the songs, the last 3, Joe DiMaggio, I mean, none of these I can really add much more to, but the Joe DiMaggio, who hadn't heard of, like you said, Mr. Coffee, but also, I mean, a kid watching Bugs Bunny cartoons would be a DiMaggio reference. And I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but the other Paul Simon, well, Mrs. Robinson, there's a very clear line in there about where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio. And so, yeah, you couldn't, and of course the Marilyn Monroe and, that whole thing. But yeah, so it was when did you say? Oh, let's see. This is okay. So this is the Wilco, right? Wilco and Billy Bragg song. I like both of their music. They teamed up for a record. I don't know if they've done more than one, but it was kind of a different sound in a way for both of them, at least from other things I've heard. And I put on a Wilco song a couple playlists ago. I don't remember how many ago, but it's kind of interesting. We've started to kind of do each other's songs now, or others artists, which are great. We have Warren Zevon in here, and then Wilco even, and I put on. Oh, there's another one I'm not thinking of here. Well, James Taylor, I guess we've all kind of done over time, but Steve Goodman, like you said. So and we're seeing more and more of that.
I didn't think about that. We all did each other's songs on the
That's right.
playlist a little bit. Yeah.
And we've been doing it
Influence.
more because I've been thinking, I really, we all kind of do have kind of our set sound. I think some of that is because we're kind of doing stuff that kind of all fits together. I have a lot of other stuff I listen to that hasn't made it on here, but it doesn't really necessarily fit, but it may, one of these days. But so, and I've had Grateful Dead songs that I like, but I'm like, oh, maybe I'll let Jose do that. It's his thing, but I think it is good to mix it up. And so I'm glad was it a Leonard Cohen song? You guys, I don't think I've actually put a Leonard Cohen song on any of these yet, but it's like I talk about him a lot. And so I think maybe he's considered like one that I would put on, but actually you two have each put on a cover or an actual Leonard Cohen song. But I digress. The next song, The Greatest. Yeah, that's it. It reminded me of that other one you put on, Dave. The Peter, Paul and Mary song.
Yeah, the right field. In fact, I thought about putting that on or breaking the rule and putting that on because it would have gone so good on the baseball playlist. But then I went, oh, I've already used it. But I think I probably should have gotten the pass to put it on this list too, because it would
No passes.
no.
Oh, you can do it. You'll just hear about it.
Right.
In front of the whole world of 4 people that watch these.
That's right.
Anyway, but yeah, and I saw Kenny Rogers in concert once, and I like a couple of some of his songs. I'm not a huge fan, but this one kind of got me because just like with that other one, the Peter, Paul and Mary, because being a dad of a kid who started at a very young age playing baseball and just seeing them develop and everything, it's like you kind of see that, you know, he gets that kind of confidence, and then, you know, there's not good days, but you have bad games or whatever, you lose a game, whatever. But so I appreciate that one. And oh, the Rycooter song. Yeah, you guys pretty much said it. That I looked it up. I like Rycooter. He's played with a bunch of musicians I like over the years. He's done a lot of great stuff on his own. Never put anything on any of these by him. But this is a. I'd kind of run out of songs. This was on my list, and you had actually suggested, "Why don't you put this one on?" But that's one that hadn't been done, and I'm glad you did, and I did, because it was the last slot left, and it's a good song. And it's actually, I thought the story was exactly what you were saying. They demolished this, you know, poor neighborhood basically, to build a stadium, but actually it was a two-step process. They demolished a neighborhood to put in low-income public housing, and this is like I think just a crime. Then they never did it. They just never built it. It just sat flat and empty. And then they came along and put in the stadium. So, but yeah, it's touching. This guy, I don't know if I didn't look up the backstory to see if he has any connection with any of this, how he knows about it so well, to do a whole record about that area. But and he does talk about the character in the song. You know, yeah, grandma's at second base. We were here. And you know, if you want to know where I'm going to end up at the end of my life, third base, you know. And but he also he's working. I think he's working the parking there at the stadium. So it's kind of, that's basically become his life from before until, yeah. So all right, that's all I have.
Okay,
I really
well,
liked it.
Well, it's not over. It's not over till the fat lady sings.
oh my God. Well, that's for basketball. That was Dan Cook. So we all know Dan Cook. He was a little sports writer here who came up with that
Oh.
phrase. But before we wrap up, my two favorite Joe DiMaggio. First of all, we mentioned Mrs. Robinson, which we didn't put on. I almost put on the Lemonheads, the remix, the redone of that. And the funny part about that, him mentioning Joe DiMaggio, is when Joe DiMaggio heard that, he's like, "I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still here." He just didn't understand how much how he was a symbol of the 40s and the 50s, and how that was missed, and how Paul Simon was related, until he finally explained it to him. And then those guys like, "Oh, okay, I get it." And then my other favorite is, Joe DiMaggio was once getting off a plane with Marilyn Monroe, and there was a bunch of people cheering, and she looks at Joe DiMaggio, she says something to the effect of, "Have you heard so many people cheering for you?" And the guy, he just kind of looks at her like, "Yeah, I kind of have. I'm 50,000 people on it every day cheer for me." But she didn't make the real connection to it, which is hilarious to think that she wouldn't know that Joe DiMaggio was so popular, that she just thought, "Oh, look at all these people cheering for me. Have you ever heard something like that?" I think he has. So, but overall, obviously, like Dave said, I love baseball. I'm glad we made this. I'm glad we made this playlist. I love it. I learned a lot about baseball. I still always learn a lot about, especially from these songs, or about hearing about these songs. I'll continue to listen to them. The Ry Cooder song was really fantastic. I won't say the them displacing all those the Mexicans and Chavez Ravine was kind of it revealed how bad, really corrupt LA was, and the police department. It was kind of the beginning of LAPD is really not the greatest people in the world, and how corrupt they were. But we don't have to get into a whole politics about that. But a fantastic song, and I'm glad you put that on there, because it goes to show you that there's a price to pay sometimes for some of these things. You know, even baseball. And it's beautiful. I've never been to Chavez Ravine. It's the third oldest ballpark now. It was built in '62. So you know, but it goes to show you that there's always a little history behind a lot of it, just as baseball is about history, good and bad, as we've learned with, you know, Jackie Robinson, pre-Jackie Robinson. So, you know, baseball isn't just a game. In our thing, I'll allude back to, and rest in peace, James Earl Jones. You get to listen to that Field of Dreams speech. It really captures the essence, you know, about how baseball it marks a passage of time. It's been built, it's been rebuilt, it's been torn down, but there's always baseball, and we can always go back to baseball. Well, at least I can. A lot of people will probably agree with that. I mean, let's face it, it's not. I equate certain moments in my life with certain things that happened in baseball. Like I remember when that happened, I would know exactly what was that. I remember when Kirk Gibson, I was at Dave's house, at his house when Kirk Gibson hit his home run against the Dodgers in '88. I just know these certain things about where I was when certain I remember seeing Hank Aaron break the record with my brothers in '74. So it's all that. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I just remember that too. I remember sitting my first grade apartment in Oklahoma City. I remember sitting on the living room floor, my bedroom floor had a little portable black and white TV, and I watched that. I remember that, but I can't, I don't remember who I talked to last week.
I remember the earthquake in Oakland too. Yeah.
I was actually in this house when that happened. I was with then Rosemary. We weren't even married yet, but '89. But I remember distinctly seeing it in my bedroom. Just things that you remember. So I think we all have good memories, good and bad memories about baseball. Again, it's my passion. I've always said sports is my passion, but music's my soul, and they all go hand in hand. So I thought this was just a great way to kind of marry the two and kind of talk a little bit about both. And again, what is kind of lost, it's not lost, but what is the music aspect of this, and the great songs that were written about it, and the great artists, like Dave said, that have married both of them. And we always see this. You see musicians with athletes and athletes with musicians, and they all think they can, I can do that, or much like actors, I could be that. But so it's fun, it's exciting, and I'm glad we did it. Any last words from anybody?
Well, speaking of Americana, and a song I didn't think about until after we'd done it, but who doesn't know "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"? And it's played all, and just that it's almost like you talk about the national pastime. Well, that's the national pastime song that everyone associates with it. Wish we could have found a good version of it, right? Or somebody that had redone it or whatever. Most of the time, it's not even a recording artist that does it. It's just everyone knows it because they go to the ballpark and seventh inning short stretch and Harry Carey doing the thing. And so, yeah, great memories, and makes me want to go out to the ball game and let's play too.
I'll piggyback on that, saying that everyone will sing "Take Me Out to the Ballpark" in the seventh, but not everyone sings the national anthem at the beginning of the game. So take that for what it's worth. You won't sing the national anthem, but dang it, that seventh inning stretch comes. I'm on my feet. I'm singing that song.
And Sweet Caroline, right?
No, that's another Red Sox.
I know. That's what
I'm anti-Red Sox. I'm small, anti-big market. I'm just kidding. I'm never going to get into that. I'm not going to win that until baseball has a salary cap. So until they fix that part, there's a lot of problems, a lot of great things about baseball, but there's a lot of problems with MLB, and one of them is the disparity between big market, small market. And if they don't ever fix that, they're going to lose a lot of fans, because who wants to go through watching your favorite team never having a chance to win? I'm a Reds fan. We haven't won the World Series since 1990. Every about 10 years, we have a decent team, but we have that small window because eventually those stars are going to be taken away from us. Like right now, we have Ellie De La Cruz, who's one of the most exciting. Okay, we have him for 5 years. That's fine until the Yankees come around and go, hey, we'll give you $50 million to play for us. And of course, he's going to go, oh, wait, I can go there, be on TV all the time and play. Until they fix that, baseball will have always a problem with that. They all want to say, oh, it's the game's too long, and they do this, and we need more hitting. Until they fix that part of MLB, they'll keep losing in the ratings, because how do you get fans to keep coming for a team that, like the Pirates, the Reds, teams like that, Milwaukee, who can't compete simply because of financial reasons. So I don't want to end on a sour note, so I will just say I love my baseball. I am looking forward to the World Series as much as the Yankees and the Dodgers. Wait, the number 1 and number 2 top payroll teams, whose top 3 players are more than my whole payroll team. Guys who make it. Shohei Ohtani makes what, $50 million a year? Seems outrageous, but I don't want to end on a bad note because he is good for baseball, and he's 50-50 season, which again goes to show you baseball continues to show you that there's no ceiling. Things can happen. We used to think 40 seasons were unheard of, and then 30 seasons. Now you got a guy who goes 50-50, and next year he might pitch. I mean, so we should embrace that as baseball fans, but you still always have that hanging, that lingering aspect of some things to fix as far as MLB, but the game itself is as pure and as beautiful as it ever has been. So I appreciate y'all guys talking and indulging me a little in my favorite sport. I know y'all enjoy it as one, and Mike, of course, gets to see it firsthand every weekend. So enjoy it as much as you can, because that don't last forever, and there ain't nothing better than going to see a baseball game in my life, and especially with my son. That's my favorite thing to do in life, is to go to a baseball game with my son. So I'm sure
I
you're
get
the same way.
I have, I mean, said I'm touched on this, talked about it a little bit, but that even for Little League opening day, it's everything's green and maybe chilly, but it's just you got that like hopeful feeling. So much is ahead. You don't know what it could be, but we could win this year. We could go all the way. It just and it's that way with watching my son. I got, like I said again, I got more into baseball from that than just firsthand watching it myself. So yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
I think they try to maybe destroy the game with all the different new things and analytics and all that kind of stuff. But when it all comes down to it's endured for all these years because it is a perfect game. It is a beautiful game, and all of the sights, sounds, smells, feelings, and all the things that go along with it is what makes it America's pastime. And going back to what I said at the beginning, just playing catch with my dad or with my sons over the years. That's really what it's all about. Is just being able to connect one-on-one on that level, and it's a great game, and I'm grateful to both of you for doing a playlist about it. Because I think it's going to be one that's going to be timeless, and maybe more timeless than a lot of our other playlists.
Yeah. Speaking of connections, I think that's why we do this as well. Like baseball, music connects us all, and I think we all enjoy it. So I think our next one, little sneak preview, maybe Halloween, maybe. So y'all can look forward to that. I'm sure that's another fun-loving one that I think we'll all enjoy. First finding songs and then getting to talk about them. So until next time, play ball.